Good evening, all. I'd like to introduce Scott, KM6RFB. He's one of our club members, very active in the club, and he is very helpful when it comes to our emergency planning. At Field Day, he once again volunteered to set up a first aid station and maintain communications and even look out for fires, some of the fires in the area that were starting to spread. I remember he had a scanner on all the event through, warning us about things close to us. So, just a little couple of things about Scott here. So, he most recently became the emergency coordinator for Placer County ARES. Thank you so much, Scott. And his professional life, he has worked as a firefighter and HazMat Specialist with various agencies for over 20 years. We'll be giving a presentation on public resources you can use for situational awareness. With that, I would like to welcome Scott, KM6RFB, to the podium.
Been giving this presentation. I gave it to the American Legion. I've given it to a couple other groups. So situational awareness. There are a million different applications, software, programs, internet sites that talk about what's going on in the real world. So many of them. How can we consolidate this and make it relevant to everybody? And so Jim was right. I spent 27 years in the fire service, as you guys probably know. My last few years in the fire service, I spent it doing code enforcement for CAL FIRE. The defensible space inspections. How many of you guys are aware of the defensible space inspections? Yeah, I'm that guy that showed up and said you got to clean everything off your property. But there's a good and bad. There's a good and bad to that as well. The good part of it is it's incredibly helpful to us. Coming from the fire service, coming from the side of pulling up to somebody's front property and going, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo," basically because that defensible space gives us a defense, an option to do something on your property. And I'll be really blunt, I'm not your landscaper. Neither is my crew on my engine. So when we come wheeling up, that's one of the things we look for. Is that property defendable from a standpoint of us putting our crews in there? If not, we're moving to the next house. And that's just the cold facts. It's not to be mean or malicious, but it's just really the facts of life because I'm not going to risk my crew. Guys, understanding what you need to do. Prepare yourself, prepare your property, prepare for evacuation. So why am I going over this? This is incredibly important. We've had several fires in the area that have kind of come close to home. Jim, where you at? He had one not too far from his house, correct? 2,200 feet. Yep. Real scary. You don't know which direction to go. And having some preparedness, preparing yourself, preparing your property, in other words, that's a defendable space, and the evacuation, preparing yourself, having a go kit, having your equipment ready to go out the door. We're in fire season. This is really important. But where do I get this information? That's kind of what my talk is on tonight, is how do I know? Because the reality of it is when the media finally gets around to telling you it's time to go, they're 20 to 30 minutes behind the power curve already. That's 20 to 30 minutes that you could already be moving on in the world. So how do I get this information? What is out there for me? And then prepare for evacuation. How many ways do we have out of our property? So CAL FIRE has some really good information on their website on how to do it. But really, why am I here? I want to talk about, some of it is traffic related. This is one of the websites. So what I do for my job, I'm always looking at these sites, looking at where the bottlenecks are, where are issues. How many of you have ever seen the CHP CAD page? CHP CAD page is really nice. Everybody has access to this. This will tell you what's going on in a particular route or in a particular communications area. So I can look under here and go, well, I want to know what's happening, I don't know, San Luis Obispo. It's telling me where the accidents are. Is that important to know for situational awareness? Absolutely. It tells me how can I go somewhere. Is there a road blockage? Is there a different route? What's happening? It allows me to have a lot of good information. So again, everything I'm going to show you tonight doesn't require you to have a special login, doesn't require you to pay a fee. This is your tax dollars at work presenting this information. So the CHP CAD page is really nice. So I can come over here and I really want to know more about this on North Prado Road and 101, which is kind of near Paso Robles. And it's going to tell me at the bottom of the screen what units have been assigned, where it's at in this process. Really handy information out there. Well, this is just one of them. And we're going to get to some of the more popular ones that are out there. So we've all heard of watch duty. So I now work for watch duty. I'm one of their contributors. In the background, I'm the one listening to the radios. I'm the one one of the guys inputting information up to the system. I'm going to get into watch duty last because it's kind of a culmination of lots of things. So one of the other ones I look at a lot is something out of Southern California. Let's see if it pops up. Yep, here it comes. It's called firefighter. It's kind of like watch duty, but it gives me a little bit more data. So it's going to populate there, and it's not very fast tonight. But it's going to home into Southern California right now just because that's where it homes into. And it's going to load up here. So Wi-Fi allows me to look at things like air quality, allows me to look at cameras, it allows me to look at wind, it allows me to look at humidity, it allows me to look at a lot of data at my fingertips. So these are all the cameras. It's building its map up again, like I said. So these are all the cameras, all the blue lights, or all the angles of the cameras are looking at any given time. So I can sit here and click on almost any camera, and there's Stony Ridge's camera, and it's going to come up here in a minute with an image of the camera, and it's actually looking to the west a little bit. So it's giving me a lot of data on what the camera's doing. So I have access to a lot of the cameras out there. I've got layers I can add. I can add weather to this function. Past fires to fuel types, population and housing, satellite imagery. All kinds of things can be added to this where watch duty doesn't allow it because they haven't built it in yet. So this is giving me wind measurements real quick. So again, it's just another application. This is called Wi-Fi. It's firemap.edu. Wi-Fi.sdsc.edu. I like this one a lot. It gives me a lot of good information out there. Again, information is key. Those with the information have a lot more. So a lot of you have seen me posting stuff about air quality. So right now, you guys heard of Kentucky? So Kentucky's another one. There's another one called winds. You guys heard of winds? Yeah, winds is very similar to Kentucky, but I've got all the options on the side over there at my fingertips.
Different than windy.com?
Yes. So it's very similar, shows some of the same information, but it gives me more data. So this is showing me wind directions. So I want to change this. I want to know what the air quality is, especially up around the fire up in Eldo County. So this is giving me air quality. So this is the fire that's burning up in El Dorado Hills right now, the Crozy fire. This is the Park fire. Which way the smoke going? Those with asthma, those with respiratory ailments. This is critical information. Really makes it helpful out there. Again, real-time data, all free. So when you guys watch the news, like KCRA and all the news channels, where do you think they get all their weather data? NOAA services. That's all the data. They're just taking the same stuff, shoving it into a graphical representation and pushing it out. You're getting the same data that they're getting, basically. And I can look at all kinds of different things. So let's kind of screen down a little bit here. Let's see what Oregon looks like. Oregon and Idaho. And they're kind of getting beat up a little bit. The other day, this was just solid out there. Yeah, so I've got windy on here as well. One that I really like, you guys have heard of Flight Radar 24? Love Flight Radar 24. I got a little better one. You guys heard of ADSB Tracker? So ADSB Tracker allows me to do a little bit more stuff. And the reason is with Flight Radar 24, it's just a big smattering of aircraft. You can't take out aircraft. ADSB Tracker allows me to take out aircraft. And so when it comes up, and you can build an ADSB tracker real easily out of a Raspberry Pi. They're real simple to build using an SDR. And be a contributor, absolutely. If you go to their website, you can actually fill out an application on there where if there's nobody really in your area, they'll send you the information to have one and get it up and running. So good, this is coming up. So at the bottom here, it shows me all the aircraft that are up and running. That are beaconing right now. But part of this problem is as soon as it comes up, I have the ability to turn on and off functions. So if I want to look for a particular aircraft, I can in here, if I know what I'm looking for. Here we go. Well, I can zoom out, and there's just aircraft all over the world here, kind of like that little mess. But, you know, there's all kinds of aircraft moving around. And then I can pan over them, and it tells me what it is. But, you know, I don't care about commercial aircraft. Well, it's just going to take some time up. I can remove all civilian aircraft off this map and only show me the government aircraft. Military, firefighting aircraft. I can remove everything else but just those aircraft. So I can have a better perspective of what aircraft are moving overhead. It's just taken a long time to load, so I apologize. It's not coming up like I really want it to. So, by the way, there's all the aircraft that are up in the air right now. I'm actually amazed they don't run into each other, to tell you the truth. Actually really amazed. But let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. I mean, it's an absolute mess. So I just turned off all civilian aircraft. What is airborne right now is just military or firefighting aircraft. Kind of makes it real nice for me to kind of figure out my population that I want to look at. So, and I can bring up the picture of the air, I can bring up information on the aircraft on the one side. So it's a pretty nice little program. So a lot of good information. But information is key, and how do you decipher that information in a timely fashion? If my aunt had probably had this information during the Wosley fire in 2017 that went from Ventura to Malibu in a matter of hours. You guys remember the Wosley fire? It just went lickety split. I called my aunt and said, you need to leave. And it was still in Ventura. I said, you need to leave now. Why? The fire's coming right at you. No, I'm safe. I'm in Malibu. No, you need to leave. Because she lives in Malibu and Trancas Canyon, which is the top of the canyon, and where the way the fire was running, it was going to run right through the canyon she was sitting on top of, and she sits right on top of the canyon. I said, the fire's going to come out of that canyon with a vengeance, and it's going to lay over on top of your house. I absolutely guarantee it 100%. And it did. She barely got out. That's the third time she lost her house in Malibu. Yeah, so, and I was telling her a day in advance, you need to leave. So this is where a lot of this data wasn't back then, but I was able to get information out of the fire service since I was on that fire. Tell you, leave. Time to go. So what I really wanted to talk about, and as we all have mentioned it, and I'll bring it up, is the other one. And I use this one again. You know, when I worked in the HazMat industry, there was something that I always looked at. I never took one piece of information as gospel. When I looked up a chemical, I looked it up by 3 different references. Why? I wanted to make sure that's what I was staring at 100% of the time. After about the third reference of information, I started to see a pattern in what I was looking at. So when I look at it, you're going to find out that a lot of this information doubles over on top of itself. All right, so out in here, there's Alert Wildfire, there's Alert California, and there is Alert West. What this Alert West does is it brings in the entire western side of the United States into one website. Brings in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, Northern California, all through their respective universities. And it should pop up here. Hey, look at that. It works. Technology is a wonderful thing. So again, these are great tools. So when I looked up, I was working with hazardous materials, I used a lot of reference materials, and it took me a little bit of time, but I was able to figure out what was going on in the world, and I could make an actual pretty good assessment of the situation. And you know, the technology geniuses are not with me. There it goes. So this website looks at these 3 different organizations, brings them into one dashboard for me, which is really nice. You guys ever seen this one? Yeah, this is a pretty nice one. So this brings in most of Northern California, of all Alert California, then Nevada, and then Oregon, Washington, and a little bit of Idaho. But it allows me to just literally go to the different cameras in different regions and look at them. So that camera is looking a certain direction. Again, this is, information is information. How you use it to your advantage is really up to you out there. But this allows me to look at active cameras, online cameras, target cameras. It allows me to look at FAA cameras, DOT cameras, PTZ cameras, fixed cameras, any type of camera that's hooked to the internet that this thing has a link to, I can see it, which is nice. A lot of the software out there, some of the websites out there that are currently running, you can't do that. It will show me offline cameras if I want to know what the offline cameras are, if what's up and working and what is not. But I can scroll down to here, and as I move into an area, it's going to move into the cameras that I'm looking for, so I don't have to select a region. So this is Pollock Pine, so this is Mount Danner, Saddle Ridge, Rock Creek, Saddle Timber 1, different cameras. Here's Georgetown's camera, and these are the directions they're looking at any given time. So as I move my thing around, it's going to move the camera, so back over here. So Rock Creek camera is looking at the fire. This is probably looking at the backside of the Crozey fire. Yeah. Yeah, it's looking at the backside of the Crozey fire. So it gives me, but you know, a lot of the stuff I can backtrack the camera, like a lot of them can. I can go back in and replay. I can go back and replay the last 6, 12, 24 hours of that camera to see what that growth is and what the weather's doing, how's it pushing the fire up, because I guarantee you, weather is key with fires. If I kind of know what the weather's doing, weather's going to do 2 things. It's going to do one thing in the morning and one thing in the afternoon. It's going to be pretty much consistent. So if I know what the weather's doing, what the winds are moving at different times of the day, I can pretty much plan what that fire is going to do out there. So this also allows me to look at different aspects. Down here, this has different aspects of that camera. Out here, one of the nicer features, and I can show it, is this little thing I clicked on. What that does is I just told the system that I only want to look at these cameras. And what it's going to do now is it's going to go back into it and look for all the cameras inside my shape. So if I'm looking for something particular, so here are all those cameras in that particular shape that I drew. It's just showing me that bit of information. So I don't have to look at a bunch of different cameras. So now once I leave this and come back to it, it's going to remember what I picked. So this is basically becomes my home page. So when I come back to there, it's always going to show Pilot Hill, Stony Ridge, Pilot Hill 2, and then Auburn's camera. So I can see some smoke out there with Auburn, great view from Stony Ridge. So it will always remember where I'm at. So by clicking on that design, you can set your watch area up real quickly. So that works real well. So, or I can go to their website individually. So each one of these groups have their own individual websites, or I can go to this one, which brings them all together. I prefer going to one versus many. And then the last one that I'll show tonight for time-wise, and the folks I just got on board with. And it's an involved process to get on board with these people. It's just not sign your name here, have a nice day. It's they do a credit check, they do a background check, they do a pretty lengthy check on you before they bring you into the fold, just because of the sensitive information that you're able to be tied into. This puts you into all the feeds for all the dispatches. So watch duty, as you guys are aware of, is growing. Next couple months, this thing's going to grow even more. So they're as far east as Texas right now. Their goal is to get all the way across the United States to be able to have visual representation of what's going on. So this gives a little bit more perspective of the fires. See, there's the park fire. So they've got another fire with the cozy fire, it looks like, just started. This might be a spot. Yeah, I'll bet you it is a spot. Yep, it's a spot. It just depends. It depends how embers move. I'll have to do a little more reading with it, but, oh, it's a structure fire that spread to vegetation, so now they got a bigger problem. Makes life great. So this tells me some really good information. So you guys see a lot of the information, but what I like about this, as soon as it loads itself up, so I can add aircraft to this. I've added also all the blue dots are cameras. This also has traffic cameras built into it. So the traffic cameras, most of the weather features. So I can add a bunch of weather features down to here. Power outages, red flag warning, surface wind directions, air quality index. I can pollute this map so badly that you can't read it. So this gives me a lot of good information, but like what Brian's saying, the aircraft is a pay part of their service. They are growing. They're adding more features to this. They're going to be adding property line boundaries. They're going to be adding Forest Service boundaries. They're going to be adding a lot of layers into this to give you a better idea where that fire is actually doing and where is it going. This is part of it. It gives you the perimeter of the fire out there. So it just tells you all this camera, that camera, this camera, that camera, and this one are all looking at that fire right now. So if I select, let's look at the top of the fire. So that's going to bring up, it's going to take a picture of the cabin fire, a Rock Creek camera. So there's that little fire there. So again, this person is based out of the Sonoma Valley area. They put this together based upon the big Napa fire, Santa Rosa fires they had a couple years ago, where there was no real information being had to property owners. So they developed this, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. Like I said, it's moving across the United States at a fairly good clip. I suspect probably by the middle of next year, they'll be all the way across to the other coastline with all the information they've got. It's a good one-stop shop. A lot of good information here. If you don't have it on your phone, please download it to your phone. It's good for iTunes, and it's also good for Android. And this is the Windows-based side of it, so you can actually look at it on your computer as well. Same with Kentucky. Can do that as well. Almost everything I showed you has an app that goes with it that you can push to your phone as well. Any questions? I covered a lot of information. Yes.
Okay, Watch Duty
Microphone.
integrates the GIS-based evacuation maps, but it does not include the perimeter map that El Dorado County is using.
No, it does not. They're getting their information straight from CAL FIRE or the Forest Service. That's where a lot of their data is coming from, all their mapping, a lot of their stuff. But they are working with the counties with their evacuation maps. They're starting to get tied into them. Brian.
Oh, you jerk.
Here, I'll give him mine.
You didn't mention Ubinet. A lot of us for many years
relied on Humanet until Watch Duty came along, but still they have a lot of articles that kind of give you the inside of what's going on, because they actually have reporters kind of doing a localized story on a lot of stuff. So it's a great resource.
Absolutely. And guys, I could spend probably the next 2.5 hours showing you all the different resources. I mean, there's a lot more. These are the ones that I use with my work, because I send crews out regularly to fires. And so I have to know what's going on. Smitty?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had another comment.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been doing ADSB gathering for many, many, many years. I'm a contributor for Flight Radar 24 and FlightAware. And just a heads up, if you're into aviation, it's a really cool thing. I built it on a Pi with an SDR. Doesn't take a whole lot of antenna. In fact, you can buy a tuned antenna that's not very big. And shoot, I put it up on the house next to my ham antenna, and I mean, I get stuff coming from China that's hundreds of miles into the that are out to sea. So it's really intriguing to see what data you gather and what you can hear.
Oh yeah.
And then in addition to that, one thing just to throw out there, I wasn't aware of the other resource you brought up, but with FlightAware and Flight Radar 24, if you are a contributor, again, the investment of a Pi and an antenna, you get premium access. So then you get access to all the filters, all the advanced stuff, and it's really pretty robust. If you're into aviation, definitely recommend it.
Oh yeah, lots of great information, lots of stuff. Like I said, I can spend hours going through all the different ones out there, but these are the ones I commonly use, because we're always sending. I've got 2 crews right now. My agency's got 2 crews on the Park Fire right now, the Tehama side and the Butte side. So we're always monitoring this. The minute a fire breaks, we're monitoring this as well, and all the cameras. We're going to the cameras to see how is this growing and at what point we may become involved in it. So this is something that we're always tuned to during fire season. And keep in mind, there's more resources that are more tuned to not global disasters, nationwide disasters. So it looks at flooding, it looks at earthquakes, it looks at hurricanes, looks at tornadoes. I haven't brought that up. I could bring up the GAC for the whole United States. It's something for the feds, and I can literally look at different regions through the United States, and it'll tell me of all the different events going on out there. And again, it's a site that anybody can get to. Let me see if I can get to the GAC here. This is the GAC. So I can look at different parts of the United States, and it will tell me what's currently going on within that region of the United States. So I can look at, on the far side there, area coordination centers, national information, fire intelligence comes up on this side. But this gives me a lot of really good information, not for just fires, but any type of natural disaster will come up through the GAC. So if I bring up, so I'm looking at the Southern Area Coordination Center right now. And I can look at all stuff going on in this region here. So it's telling me drop monitors for this area. It's just going through a bunch of information for me. Again, really good information that gets brought up through here. And this is a bunch of different agencies, contributing to this. All the folks up here on top, plus CAL FIRE, they're all contributing to information on this portal. Again, no special access required. This is your tax dollars at work. All right, any other questions? If not, that's all I got. Thank you.